Data transformation in SPSS. Data can be transformed in SPSS to try to transform the data from being not normally distributed into normal distribution, as parametric test requires the data to be tested to be normally distributed. And one way or one option that is available in SPSS for data transformation is to use the LOG10 transformation. And LOG10 transformation can be used to transform positively skewed data and negatively skewed data. For positive skewed data, the formula we use LOG10. And if the numbers are in this positively skewed data are positive, then you use the log10x formula. If your data are positively skewed, however, they have in it a zero value, then the equation to use is to do log10x plus 1, as there is no log10 for 0. If your data have a negative numbers and they are positively skewed but they have a negative number, then you need to add 1 or any number that makes the negative number in the data positive. For example, log10 x plus 1 or x plus 2 or x plus 3 and so on and so on. Whichever makes the value of the number shift the value from minus into positive. So I'm going to show you how to do all these log10 transformation for positively skewed data with the positive value, zero value, and negative numbers. And then also I'm going to show you how to also do log10 transformation in negative skewed data of negative skewed data. It's a little bit different from positively skewed data. If you have a negatively skewed data and you want to do a log10 transformation, you have to do 2 steps. The first step is to do data reflection. So to reflect your data. And to do data reflection is to find the maximum value in your data, add to it number 1, and then subtract that from every score in your data. It can be the first step can be done separately, reflection and then log10, followed by log10 of the reflected data, or the log10 of negative skewed data can be done in one step by using the formula given here below, log10 x maximum plus 1 minus x. How to transform your data in SPSS using the log10, and how to transform positively skewed data that has 0 values in it, and data with negative numbers. I have a data and we want to explore the distribution of this data and to find whether it is normally distributed or not. It is an essential step, and it is in fact the first step for statistical analysis of a data, is to explore the distribution of the data, whether it is normally distributed or not. If it is normally distributed, then parametric test will be used for the analysis. If it is not normally distributed, 2 options available: either to transform the data so they become normally distributed through 3 different functions. One of them transform the data through the log10, or use a non-parametric test for analyzing the data. So here in this part, we'll show you how to explore your data, how to transform non-normal distributed data, and how to deal with data that have 0 in it and data that have also negative values in it. So the first step here, I have a column called PS, which means positively skewed. I have already checked the distribution of the data and it was positively skewed. So I'm going to show you how to do that. First of all, click on Analyze, go for Descriptive, click on Explore, reset this. I'm going to move the positive skewed into the dependent list box, and I'm going to take statistic, keep it as it is. If I click on plots, I'm going to untick stem, tick the histogram, and then tick on normality plot with tests. And options, I'm not going to do any changes. So if I hit the button for OK, SPSS will generate a table, and in this table, this data shows that these data are positively skewed 0.65, and the standard error is 0.1. And here also SPSS has calculated the test using Kolmogorov, Semenov, and Shapiro-Wilk test for normality of the distribution of the data. And as shown here, the data are not normally distributed. The histogram also confirmed that these data are slightly skewed to the right, so it's positively skewed. And so the next phase is, again, with this data, it is not possible to move ahead and do a parametric. We need to transform the data, and we will transform the data using the LOG10. To do that, you click on Transform, then click the Compute Variable, reset this. So the SPSS will generate a new column. It has a variable in it, and that variable is based in computation. So we're going to name that column with log10 positively skewed. Apparently, these data are positively skewed. So we notice here that there is a function group called arithmetics. Click on log10, then move the log10 into the numeric expression box. And we need to do a log10 for these positive skewed data, which between here. And then if you hit the button for OK, what happens here is that SPSS has calculated the log10 for this positively skewed data. Whether these data has been transformed or not, I will go and show you how to do that. Analyze, click again on Descriptive Statistics, click on Explore, then move the log10 positively skewed into the dependent list box. Click OK. And again, I will go straight forward for the test of normality. It shows here that once we have transformed the data using log10, the data tend to become more normally distributed, as can be seen here by the two tests, Shapiro, Wilk, and Kolmogorov, Semenov. So the data become normally distributed post transformation with log10. If we look at the histogram, see here it is positively skewed. That's before transformation with log10, and this is the shape after transformation with log10. So these transformation of data has corrected the non-normal distribution and become normally distributed. Thus, parametric test can be used. Now, what do we do if you have a 0 in your data, or if you have a negative value in your data? Again, it's the same concept. And these data are also positively skewed. As you can see here in this column, we have a 0 value here at case number 10. And so what we are going to do is we are going to transform these data using log10. But again, to avoid this 0, because there is no calculation for log10, we have to transform these data in a certain way. So we click on Transform, Compute Variable. Again, as we can see here, I'm going to generate a new variable and call it log10 0 for a column that has 0 value in it, or data has 0 value in it. And I'm going to again do log, move the log to here, and I'm going to use the data which has 0 value in it. And so the log10 for 0 will not be calculated, so I had to add number 1 to it so that the data, so 0 become 1, so log10 can be calculated. So if I hit the button for OK, again, so if I have a positively skewed data that has negative values in it, or negative numbers like minus 3.6 or minus 1, as we can see here in case number 5 and case number 14. And if I want to transform this data, we need first of all to change this minus into positive. And the way to change minus to positive, so to do log10 in it, is to add to the column a positive number. And in this case, I'm going to add, since it's minus 3.6, I'm going to add number 5 to every case on this column. The way to do that is to go through transform, compute variable, reset this, and then SPSS will generate a variable. We'll call it log10 negative number. I'm going to select the log10, and I'm going to move the negative value into the log10. Add to this column number 5. So what does this equation says? Do the log10 for the column labeled negative, add it to each cell in it, value 5. If you click OK, again, SPSS generated a column, has a variable in it, and the negative data has been transformed, and the data has been transformed using the log10. So these are the way to do log10 for skewed data that has no 0 or minus value in it, data that has 0 value in it, and data that has minus value in it. There are several ways to transform data that are not normally distributed in SPSS. There are 3 available options to transform data from non-normal distribution to normal distribution. The first option is log10, square root, and reciprocal transformation. For negatively skewed data, to perform log10 transformation, it is a prerequisite to do data reflection. So data reflection is the first step in data transformation. Then, once data reflection is performed, log10 transformation can be done on the reflected negative skewed data. Here in this data view, I have a column labeled NS, which stands for negatively skewed data. I have already checked the distribution of this data using the explore function in SPSS and found they are negatively skewed, and I will show you shortly how to do that. And since these data are negatively skewed and we need to use log10 transformation, the first step in doing log10 transformation of negatively skewed data is to do a reflection. So a reflection is a prerequisite, and it is important and essential step superseding transformation. Once reflection on this data is performed, then it is permissible to do log10 transformation. So The first step is to look at the data and explore them. And the way to do that, click on Analyze, Descriptive Data, Explore. You set this, and I'm going to move the data labeled in S to the dependent list, and I'm going to untick, click on Plots, untick Stem, tick the histogram, tick Normality Plot with Test. So I'm going to look at the distribution of the data that I have using the histogram, the QQ plot, and the statistical test for normality. 2 tests. If I click on Continue and then click on OK, tables are generated in this output, and the one which is in the middle labeled as descriptive. You can see that these data are skewed, and it is negatively skewed, minus 0.65. And if we look at the table below, 2 tests being used, KS test and Shapiro-Wilk test for testing normality, and those 2 tests shows that these data are not normally distributed. So there is a skewness in this data, and it is negatively skewed. If we look at the histogram, we can see here that the data are clustering to the right, and the tail point toward, or the data point toward the negative value. So it is negatively skewed. And if we look at the QQ plot here, we can see the data are clustering above the diagonal line. So these data are, now we establish that these data are not normally distributed, and it is negatively skewed. And if we want to proceed to do log10, we have to do an essential prerequisite step called data reflection. And the way to do data reflection is first to determine the maximum value in the data set. And from this table, we can see that the maximum value is 6.12. We're going to use this shortly value. So the way to do data reflection is to click on Transform, Compute Variable, reset this. And here I'm going to label this target variable to generate a new variable. We'll call it data reflection. And to do data reflection is to use the maximum value, which is 6.12. We're going to add number 1 to it, and we're going to subtract the value for each score in each in the NS column or variable. So in this formula says that the maximum value is 6.12. We add to it 1 and then subtract each value in the data we have, or each score in the data. So if we click on OK, a new column is generated and labeled data reflection. And if we click on Analyze again to examine the distribution of this data, and we click on Descriptive Statistic, Explore, and then move the NS to the dependent list, the data reflection to the dependent list, and we are not going to do any changes here. I think I'm going to untick the stem, tick the histogram, and tick the normality plot with test. Continue. Okay. Again, descriptive table is generated. One is labeled need data NS, negatively skewed, and the one with data reflection. Data reflection has really, the data was negatively skewed. When you do a data reflection, it becomes positively skewed, minus 0.65 to positive 0.65. And testing, looking at the histogram, this is for the neat original data, and this is for the reflected data, and as you can see here, it has been reflected. And if we look again at the table, we can see here that data is becoming positively skewed. So now we finished doing the first step in data reflection for data transformation. And if we move to the log10 transformation, so the data now are ready to perform log10 transformation. The way to do log10 transformation is click and transform again, compute variable, reset this, and we're going to call it log10. And to do log10 is to click on the function group arithmetics, select the log10, move it to the numeric expression, and then we're going to do log10 or not on the neat data, on the reflected data. And if I click the button for OK, the SPSS will generate a column for log10 of the reflected data. And I'm going to explore and look at the data for the three: the neat data, the reflected data, and the log10. If we move the log10 to the dependent list, keep everything setting the same, and we click on OK, a new table is generated for all the three. Again, as we can see here, if we'll scroll down to log10, we can see that the skewness doing log10 has reduced the skewness from 0.65 to minus 0.65 to minus 0.14. So this is really a dramatic reduction in the skewness. And again, if we look at the test for normality using KS test and Shapiro work test, you can see that log10 has transformed the data, and the data become really normally distributed from the value of 0.2 and 0.6 for both tests. So log10 has really managed to rescue and transform the data from being negatively skewed into nearly normally distributed. So if we look at the histogram, we can see that that's the histogram for negatively skewed data and processed data, histogram for the reflected data, and the histogram for the log10 or the log10 of the reflected negatively skewed data is indicate that it's normally distributed. And if you look at the QQ plot, you can see that all the dots or circles are aligned perfectly onto nearly perfectly on the diagonal line. And if you look at box plot, it is really normally distributed. So we've done log10 transformation on negatively skewed data by doing first data reflection and then second log10. We could do also a step that is combining both data reflection and log in one step. The way to do that is to click on compute variable, reset this, and I'm going to call it again log10 direct. So to do log10 direct is to click on arithmetics, log10, and move the log10 here. Since I'm going to do log10 on the neat data, and I'm going to do both data reflection and log10 simultaneously, so I'm going to use the neat data. So I'm going to do, again, repeat that, is to do reflection 6.12, add to it 1, subtract from it the value for each score in the data labeled negatively scored. So here now we have an equation that's saying do a log10 for a data that will be reflected. So reflection will be done simultaneously, log10 will be done. So if I click on OK, again, you can see here that the log10 direct has generated, a column has been generated for log10 direct, and the value in it similar to the way that you've done it. So you have done it by 2 steps or 1 step. So there are two step log10 or 1 step. So there are 2 ways to do the log10 of negatively skewed data. To do first, either to do the data reflection first in a column and then do log10 on this data, or just combine them in one column and do data reflection and log10 in one column. This is the way to do log10 transformation of negatively skewed data.